Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time we are going to be taking a look at Quantum Physics and the Power of the Mind by Nancy Patterson.
Sounds intriguing.
It is, and we've got a lot to cover.
I'm excited to dive in.
So this book is really interesting because it's trying to bridge the gap between, hardcore physics and something a little more relatable, the law of attraction.
Yeah, it seems like it's aiming to make these complex quantum ideas accessible and applicable to, personal growth and stuff.
Exactly. So we'll be talking about everything from the itty-bitty subatomic particles to the possibility of us actually shaping our own reality with our thoughts.
Whoa!
Right. It's going to get pretty wild.
I'm ready.
Okay, so first things first, let's break down what quantum physics, even IS. We all took physics in high school, but this is,
A whole different ball game.
yeah, it's not about apples falling from trees or planets orbiting the sun anymore.
Right. So in a nutshell, quantum physics is the study of energy and matter at the smallest possible level, the subatomic level. It's like zooming in way, way past atoms to the particles that make them up.
So instead of a nice smooth flow of energy, it's more like chunky.
You got it. Quantum physics tells us that energy isn't continuous. It comes in these tiny little packets called quanta. It's like the minimum amount of energy you can have.
Interesting. So who figured this out?
Well, a guy named Max Planck, he's basically like the grandfather of quantum physics. He was the one who first proposed this idea of quantized energy, and it totally revolutionized the way we understand the universe.
Okay, I can already see why this is going to be mind-bending.
Just wait, it gets even weirder.
Okay, hit me with some of the craziest things quantum physics has uncovered. What are the things that make you go, what?
Well, one of the most famous examples is the double slit experiment. Have you heard of that one?
Rings a bell, but refresh my memory.
Okay, so basically, they shine a beam of light through two slits, and you'd expect to see two bright lines on the other side, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's not what happens. Instead, you get this pattern of multiple bright and dark bands, like an interference pattern.
Wait, so the light's acting like a wave?
Exactly. But here's the really crazy part. When they send single particles of light, like photons, through the slits one at a time, they still get the same interference pattern as if each photon is somehow interfering with itself.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like the photons are going through both slits at the same time.
How is that even possible?
It's one of the biggest mysteries of quantum physics. It gets to this idea of wave-particle duality, where particles can act like both waves and particles. And this is where the observer effect comes in.
Okay, the observer effect. This is the one where just watching something changes it, right?
Yeah. It's like the act of observing a particle forces it to choose whether to act like a wave or a particle.
That is so trippy. You're telling me reality changes just because we're looking at it.
Well, it's a bit more complicated than that, but in a way, yes. It suggests that our consciousness might play a role in shaping reality at the quantum level.
Okay, so how does all of this tie in to the law of attraction? I've heard the phrase, but I'm not really sure what it means.
So the law of attraction is basically the idea that like attracts like. It's the belief that our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs can actually attract similar experiences into our lives. You've probably heard it phrased as, what you focus on expands.
Okay, yeah, I've definitely heard that before.
Right, so this is where quantum physics gets really interesting. Some people believe that our thoughts and beliefs actually interact with a field of energy that permeates everything, often called the quantum field.
So, we're not just passively observing reality, but actively shaping it with our minds. Is that what you're saying?
That's one interpretation. If we connect the law of attraction to the observer effect, it raises the possibility that we're not just watching the universe unfold, but actually participating in its creation.
Wow, that is a lot of responsibility.
It is, but it's also incredibly empowering.
So if I'm getting this right, it's not just about thinking positive thoughts, but about intentionally directing our energy toward what we want.
Exactly. It's about understanding that we might have more power to shape our lives than we realize.
All right, hold on a second. Before we get too carried away with the whole mind over matter thing, let's bring it back down to earth for a minute. I'm guessing quantum physics isn't all just theoretical, mind-blowing concepts, right? It has some real-world applications too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Quantum physics is actually the backbone of a lot of the technology we use every day.
Really? Give me some examples.
We'll take lasers, for instance, or fluorescent lights. Those wouldn't exist without our understanding of how electrons behave at the quantum level.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
And it goes even deeper than that. Semiconductors, the heart of all our electronics computers, smartphones, they rely entirely on our knowledge of energy bands. which comes straight from quantum physics.
So these abstract quantum principles are actually behind things I use all the time.
Yep, pretty much everything.
Okay, that is blowing my mind. I never realized how essential this, like, weird science is to our everyday lives.
And then there's MRI, the medical imaging technology that lets doctors see inside your body without surgery.
Oh yeah, MRI. How does that work?
It's based on the quantum properties of atomic nuclei.
Seriously. So even in medicine, quantum physics is playing a crucial role.
Absolutely, it's everywhere.
So it seems like this stuff that seems so far out there is actually deeply interwoven with our lives in ways we don't even realize.
Exactly, it's all connected.
Okay, I'm definitely hooked. Let's dive deeper into how this quantum world might connect to the law of attraction. This is getting good.
Okay, so we've talked about how our observations might actually be affecting reality at the quantum level, but how does that translate to, like, manifesting things in our lives, with the law of attraction?
Yeah, that's the part I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Is it really as simple as, like, thinking about something really hard and poof, it appears?
Well, not quite. It's not quite magic like that. Patterson explains that it's more about aligning your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions with your desires.
Yeah.
It's like tuning yourself into the frequency of what you want to attract.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does quantum physics actually support this idea? Like, is there any scientific evidence for this?
That's where things get a bit more speculative. Some proponents of the law of attraction point to concepts like quantum entanglement as evidence that our thoughts and intentions can influence reality, but in a non-local way, meaning it doesn't matter about the distance.
Entanglement. Okay, that sounds wild. Is that like telepathy or something?
Not exactly. Entanglement is a real phenomenon. It's been experimentally verified, like we know it exists. But connecting it to the law of attraction, that's still kind of a leap of faith. There's no scientific consensus on this yet. It's definitely an area that needs more research.
So it's more of a theory right now than a proven fact. It's okay, but it's still a pretty mind-blowing concept to think about.
Oh, absolutely. And even if we kind of set aside those more speculative interpretations, quantum physics still offers some really profound insights into, the nature of reality that can be applied to personal growth.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, for instance, the concept of superposition, you remember, where a particle can exist in multiple states at once until it's observed.
Yeah.
Well, that suggests that there are, like, infinite possibilities available to us at any given moment.
Whoa. So it's like we have the power to choose which possibility we want to kind of collapse into reality.
That's one way to think about it. It's about becoming conscious of our choices and taking responsibility for the reality we create.
This is starting to feel very empowering. It's like we're not just victims of circumstance, but, active participants in shaping our own lives.
Exactly. And that's one of the key takeaways from Patterson's book. It's about recognizing our own creative power and using it intentionally.
Okay, so we've been exploring, the mind-bending world of quantum physics and its potential connection to the law of attraction. But let's not forget about, the people, the pioneers who paved the way for these discoveries. What can you tell us about some of the, key figures in the history of quantum physics?
Well, we've already mentioned Max Planck, right, the father of quantum theory, but there are so many other fascinating figures who, contributed to this revolution in science.
Let's talk about Niels Bohr. I remember learning about his model of the atom in school, with the electrons orbiting the nucleus like planets around the sun. How did his work kind of advance our understanding of the atom?
Well, Bohr's model, that was a huge step forward. It introduced this idea that electrons could only exist in specific energy levels within the atom. And this helped explain why atoms emit and absorb light at very specific frequencies, giving us those unique spectral lines that scientists use to identify elements.
So it's like a big deal for understanding how atoms work, even if it wasn't like
Yeah.
the complete picture, right?
Exactly. And speaking of not having the complete picture, let's talk about wave-particle duality. We've touched on this already, but it's such a central concept in quantum physics that it deserves a little more attention.
Yeah, the idea that something can be both a wave and a particle, that still makes my brain hurt a little bit. How did scientists even come to that realization?
It was a gradual process with contributions from a lot of brilliant minds, but one key figure was Louis de Broglie. He's the one who proposed that all matter, not just light, has wave-like properties.
So not just tiny particles like electrons, but even big things like me, you, a planet. Everything has a wave associated with it.
Technically, yes, but for large objects, that wavelength is so tiny that it's practically impossible to measure. It's like trying to find a ripple in the ocean caused by a cruise ship. The effect is just too small to notice.
Okay, so wave-particle duality is really only noticeable at the subatomic level. But even thinking about it conceptually is pretty wild. It makes you wonder what other weirdness is hidden in the quantum realm just waiting to be discovered.
Oh, there's certainly a lot more to explore, and that's part of what makes quantum physics so fascinating. It challenges our fundamental assumptions about how the universe works and forces us to, like, expand our understanding of reality.
And one of the biggest paradigm shifts that came about from quantum physics was Einstein's famous equation, EMC4. That one little equation literally changed the world. What are some of the key insights we've gained from it?
Einstein's equation, it's truly revolutionary. It tells us that mass and energy are basically two sides of the same coin. They can be converted into each other. This realization opened up incredible possibilities, everything from, you know, harnessing the power of nuclear energy to understanding how stars are formed.
So like a tiny bit of mass can be transformed into a huge amount of energy, like in a nuclear explosion. That's both like terrifying and awe-inspiring at the same time.
It is. It's a powerful reminder of the immense energy contained within matter, and it has profound implications for our understanding of the universe at all scales.
Okay, there's one more concept I want to touch on that Patterson mentions a lot, the quantum field. It's described as this underlying field of energy that permeates everything. Honestly, it's kind of hard to visualize. Can you help me understand what it is and why it's so important?
The quantum field, yeah. It's definitely one of those ideas that can make your head spin, but it's a really crucial concept in quantum field theory, which is kind of a more advanced way of describing the quantum world. Think of it like this. Instead of viewing particles as like these tiny solid objects, we see them as excitations or disturbances in a field.
So it's not that particles are like moving through empty space, but rather that space itself is buzzing with energy, and particles are like ripples in that energy.
Exactly. It's like the universe is this vast ocean of energy, and particles are like waves on the surface of that ocean. And just like waves can, interact and interfere with each other, so too can particles in the quantum field.
Which brings us back to the idea that our thoughts and intentions might somehow influence the quantum field, shaping reality around us.
It's certainly a tantalizing possibility, and one that Patterson explores in depth. But it's important to remember that the connection between the quantum field and the law of attraction is still largely speculative. It's an area that needs a lot more scientific investigation before we can draw any firm conclusions.
Okay, so we need to keep an open mind, but also stay grounded in scientific evidence. I get it. But even if we don't have all the answers yet, it's pretty amazing to think about the potential implications of these ideas.
Absolutely. It's a journey of exploration, and each new discovery opens up like even more questions and possibilities.
Okay, so we've been through like the quantum ringer, right?
Yeah.
From wave-particle duality to the quantum field.
Yeah.
And it's all like incredibly fascinating, but I'm curious, how can we actually use this knowledge in our lives?
Yeah.
Like it can't all just be theoretical.
You're right. It's not all theory. Quantum physics actually has some surprisingly practical implications, especially when you start connecting it to the law of attraction. Think about it. If our thoughts and beliefs can really influence reality at a fundamental level, as some interpretations suggest,
Yeah.
then becoming mindful of those thoughts, it becomes super important.
So it's like taking responsibility for the energy that we're putting out into the world.
Exactly. It's about consciously choosing to focus on the positive, on what we want to create, rather than dwelling on the negative or what we fear. It's about aligning our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions with what we desire.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just about like wishful thinking, but about actively shaping our reality through our intentions and our actions.
Precisely. And this can be applied to every area of our lives, our relationships, our careers, our health, our overall well-being. It's about becoming conscious creators rather than passive observers.
That's a powerful concept. But let's not forget about the practical applications of quantum physics and technology. We talked about lasers and semiconductors earlier, but what about the future? What kind of advancements can we expect to see as our understanding of quantum mechanics keeps evolving?
Oh, the future of quantum technology, it's incredibly exciting. We're on the verge of breakthroughs in areas like quantum computing, which could totally revolutionize, fields like medicine, materials science, AI.
Quantum computers, huh? Those sound like something straight out of Star Trek. What makes them so different from the computers we use today?
Well, traditional computers use bits, which can be either a 0 or a 1.
Right.
But Quantum computers, they use qubits, and these qubits can be both 0 and 1 at the same time thanks to the principle of superposition.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And this allows them to perform calculations at an exponentially faster rate. Like, we're talking about tackling problems that would take classical computers millions of years to solve.
Wow. So problems that are basically like impossible for us to solve right now could become solvable with quantum computers.
Exactly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, you know. We're also seeing a ton of progress in quantum cryptography, which could lead to, like, virtually unhackable communication systems.
No way.
Yeah. And then there's quantum sensing, which has the potential to create, like, incredibly sensitive detectors for everything, like from gravitational waves to medical
It
diagnoses.
sounds like the possibilities are literally endless. It makes you realize how
Wow.
much we still have to learn and discover about, the universe.
Absolutely. And the more we learn about the quantum world, the more we realize how interconnected everything truly is.
Right. Like it's not just about, abstract theories and technological advancements, but it's about understanding our place in the grand scheme of things. It's recognizing that we're all part of this, like, intricate web of energy and matter constantly interacting, influencing each other.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. It's a reminder that we're not just these, isolated individuals, but part of something much larger than ourselves.
And it brings us back to, like, that central question, right?
Yeah.
If we really do have this power to shake reality with our thoughts and intentions, what kind of reality do we want to create?
That's the question we should all be asking ourselves, you know? It's a question that, like, goes beyond science, really, and it delves into the realm of ethics, philosophy, spirituality.
It's a reminder that with great power comes great responsibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have the potential to create amazing things, but also to cause harm if we're not careful.
Precisely. It's about using our understanding of, the quantum world wisely and compassionately, and always striving to create a better future, for ourselves and for generations to come.
Well said. So, to our listeners, if you're feeling like inspired to explore the mysteries of quantum physics and the power of the mind further, we encourage you to check out Nancy Patterson's book and dive in. It's a journey that will challenge your assumptions, it will expand your awareness, and maybe even change the way you see the world.
Yeah, and remember, the universe is full of wonder and possibility. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep an open mind to all the amazing things that, are waiting for us as we continue to unravel the secrets of the quantum realm.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another adventure into the world of knowledge and discovery.